Hello from Jonathan and from me. Welcome to the programme.
First, the family night out that went terribly wrong.
A 6-year-old girl is among 20 people left injured after a firework exploded over a crowd at a display in Bedfordshire last night.
They suffered burns and cuts during the organised Scout display in Leighton Buzzard. An investigation's begun into what went wrong. Neil Bradford can now join us. Neil, it was supposed to be a fun night. It turned into a terrifying one.
Absolutely. Be prepared is the Scouts' motto, but it's hard to imagine how anyone in that crowd could have prepared for the firework that exploded in amongst them. 20 people received cuts, burns and bruises, and what should have been a spectacular display turned into a medical emergency. The small field behind Leighton Buzzard's Scout hut remains scattered with spent fireworks, almost exactly as it was abandoned last night. For the 100 spectators, it had begun as fun, but it ended in chaos and terror. A firework veered off course, exploding in the crowd. 20 people were injured, including a 6-year-old girl. Jennifer Salisbury and her 9-year-old son Aidan were among the injured. Jennifer received a flash burn to her leg. Aidan burns to his hand. Today, recovering at home, they told me what happened.
All screaming and shouting, and I can hear like this drilling through my ears, and I saw this huge white flash when it had hit, and I was blown backwards and I got the rocket smacked in my hand.
I was frightened. I was terrified that my son might have been injured, which he was. It was horrendous what was going on. You know, the screaming, all the panic.
The injured were treated inside the Scout hut before being taken to hospital in ambulances and police cars. Others took themselves to local A&E units.
The majority of the injuries were superficial burns to children and adults' faces, necks, arms. Some of the children had their clothes burnt from the blast of the firework. You know, they're very lucky indeed that nobody actually lost their life last night.
The accident is now being investigated by the local authority. The display was organised by the first Leighton Buzzard Scout group. They've made no comment today, but the Scout Association told us that this is an annual event which has been held for the past 10 years without incident. The organisation says it will launch a full investigation in conjunction with the authorities in the coming days. We showed a video of the scene to an expert who did not organise last night's event, but has more than 25 years' experience in setting up and running major displays.
Every accident is regrettable, but every accident has a cause, and the investigators need to find out exactly how that firework that went wrong was secured and what precautions the organisers took to make sure that it didn't go near the audience.
Today, Jennifer Salisbury returned to the scene, searching for her car keys, which were lost in the panic. It's made her think twice about attending displays with her children.
So, Neil, what happens now?
Well, the accident is being investigated not by the Health and Safety Executive, but by the Public Protection Service of the local authority, that's Central Bedfordshire Council. Their officials have visited the site today and they've started that investigation, but that will take many days and weeks. They have 100 people who are in the crowd to speak to, as well as the organisers. We also know that there's that internal investigation by the Scout Association. Very many questions need answering. But this display has run for the past 10 years without incident. I suspect, though, that last night was probably the last.
Neil, thanks very much. Next tonight, the disturbing internet link between the teenager intent on burning down his school and a German mass murderer.
A boy was yesterday detained indefinitely after he was found at Attleborough High School in Norfolk last year with petrol, matches and a knife.
The teenager was stopped after fellow internet forum users tipped off police. Sasha Twining reports.
It was an incident that could have brought terror to the corridors of a Norfolk school. Last March, a pupil calmly walked into Attleborough High School carrying petrol, accelerants, matches and a knife. That morning, he'd left a message on a website saying, "Today at 11:30 a.m. I will attack my school with violence and arson."
Well, a normal, quiet school day here at Attleborough High School today, but sobering details that were revealed in court have once again raised the question of the relationship that teenagers have with the internet, and specifically the people that they might befriend online.
In the incident here in Attleborough, the friend that was found online was Tim Kretschmer. Tim Kretschmer stunned Germany when he walked into his school in Winden and killed 15 people before turning his gun on himself. It's just been revealed the two teenagers had been in regular contact online. And it was only 5 days after the killings in Germany that the pupil from Attleborough High, who is too young to be named, was stopped. In a statement, the school said, "This is an isolated incident and we are grateful to the person who reported it. The matter was dealt with effectively by senior staff and it was reported to the police, who responded quickly. This has been a sad matter for the school and our thoughts are now with the boy concerned and his family." Psychologists say teenagers who feel misunderstood can find a home in an online community.
The distance allows them to be more intimate. There is no danger of one of these two individuals turning up in their social group. I can say this to you because you live in Germany. I'm not going to bump into you in Tesco's.
It may well have been the internet that enabled a teenager here in Attleborough and a teenager in Germany to talk to each other, but it was also the internet that alerted police. Users on the same forum who were in the West Country and in Canada became suspicious at some of the posts that they were reading.
There's no let-up. It's a matter of constant vigilance. Vigilance by parents, vigilance by ourselves, vigilance by teachers. You know, we've got to keep an eye on what they're doing and again, communication, talk to them about it.
The teenager is now in a secure hospital and has been ordered to be detained indefinitely under the Mental Health Act. Sasha Twining, Anglia News, Attleborough.
A woman's been rescued by helicopter after injuring herself on a walk near Winterton in Norfolk. Valerie Barker slipped over this morning on the sand dunes. She was rescued by air ambulance. Her son, Gavin, witnessed the half-hour ordeal and sent us these pictures. Mrs. Barker was airlifted to hospital but was later released.
There's been a major change of strategy at Great Yarmouth's outer harbour announced this afternoon. It's no longer going to handle container ships. Eastport, which runs the new harbour, says it will focus instead on businesses involved in offshore wind farms. The decision has been taken because of the economic downturn in container traffic. Now, there was a fresh blow for rail passengers today, with warnings of increased overcrowding over the next 4 years.
It comes just weeks after travellers were told to brace themselves for big hikes in fares. But rail companies in our region say they're already taking action to tackle the issue of crowded carriages. Martin Stew reports.
The start of another crowded journey to work. And for commuters, the warning of worse to come. A committee of MPs says Department of Transport targets for boosting passenger places in the next 4 years are unlikely to be met, leaving peak time travellers with even less chance of finding a seat.
So do you think it's an adequate service?
Definitely not. I actually bring my own seat with me to sit on the floor.
Inevitably you do think you pay a lot for these trains. It would be nice to sit down sometimes.
The House of Commons Public Accounts Committee says unless something is done, overcrowding could become intolerable on some routes.
This is the 7:15 train from Cambridge to London King's Cross. A season ticket on this costs about £4,000. And while the train's not overly overcrowded, there are still some people standing.
But that's a big improvement on the same train 2 years ago. In 2008, the 7:15 from Cambridge was named one of the most crammed. In one journey, 870 passengers were on a train with seating for just under 500. Train companies say they're working hard to ease the problem. In May last year, First Capital Connect added an extra 5,000 seats between Peterborough and Cambridge to London. From next month, they'll be putting on 11 extra trains and providing longer carriages out of London at peak time, adding a further 6,500 seats. December also sees National Express East Anglia adding over 4,000 seats to mainline trains in and out of Liverpool Street, and over 6,500 new seats for Cambridge and Stansted Express services.
We understand the needs of our customers. We know that they're extremely frustrated by crowded trains. Having to stand on a service into work every morning really is quite frustrating. That's why, working with the government, we're introducing more trains, more carriages and more seats.
Hitchin's one of the stations that should benefit. For passengers, it can't come soon enough.
When you've got to go to work and do a full day's work and have to stand, practically all the way to London. It's a nightmare.
For the amount that I pay on a monthly basis, it's ridiculous. You know, you don't pay that much to stand up to go to work.
The government's already under fire after last month's revelations that rail fares are likely to rise by 10% in real terms over the next 4 years. It says reorganisation may help give passengers a better deal.
There's a really strong case for trying to find a better way for train operators and Network Rail, the two halves of the rail industry, to work better together to deliver more efficient services at a lower cost.
Passenger groups say that value for money is what travellers want most. Finding a seat apparently is just fourth on their wish list, and that may become just a little bit easier from next month. Martin Stew, Anglia News, Cambridge.
Well, Martin Stew is in Cambridge for us now. Martin, people arriving home from London around now, do you think they're convinced that things are going to improve for them next month?
Well, in a word, Becky, no. And for three main reasons. Firstly, they say they've heard it all before. Every year the same promises, every year the same letdowns. Secondly, they say even if the trains get longer, well, most of the stations can't deal with it because the platforms are too short. And then you've got the fact that there are more people travelling by train now than at any time since the end of the Second World War. Quite simply, they're getting busier. And you do sympathise with commuters. A season ticket from Cambridge here, including Underground Pass, costs £4,800 a year. Add to that £7.20 for parking, and they say they're getting a second-rate service for a premium rate fare.
It's certainly a lot of money. Martin, thank you very much indeed for that. So then, those commuters Martin spoke to, far from convinced. Here's a little of what you've been saying to us on our Facebook and Twitter pages today.
Matt from Hitchin in Hertfordshire got in touch on Twitter to say that it costs him £3,000 for a standard annual ticket from Hitchin to King's Cross. He rarely gets a seat in the morning, but first class is always empty.
Meanwhile, John from Bedford told us that both the 0829 Bedford to St Pancras and his return train were both absolutely rammed.
Sue Woods from North Walsham in Norfolk says she was on a train with her daughter and her pregnant friend, and they all had to stand. When she complained about the lack of carriages, she was told you pay to get from one place to another and not for a seat. Well, as ever, thank you for that, and you can keep debating the issue on our Facebook and our Twitter pages.
And let us know if First Capital Connect, National Express East Anglia and the Stansted Express are true to their word and do put those extra seats into service. You have been warned. We are watching you.
More news.